Welcome to Virtual Office Hours, comparing legal job offers, brought to you by the American Bar Association and AccessLex Center for Education and Financial Capability. The Virtual Office Hours series connects you with experts to help you thrive as a law student and prepare for life after law school. We're really excited to have Morgan Cutright with us to talk about what goes into comparing legal job offers across various fields. Morgan is the Regional Director for the Mid-South Region at AccessLex Center for Education and Financial Capability. Previously, Morgan spent over half a decade in law school admissions. She is a first-generation student and a licensed attorney. Morgan's passions within access to the legal profession, starting with legal education. She strives to inform and empower aspiring lawyers on their journey to fulfilling their dreams. Morgan, we'll turn things over to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here so we can talk about comparing legal jobs. As Tracy mentioned, my name is Morgan Cutright. I'm the Regional Director of the Mid-South for the Center of Education and Financial Capability at AccessLex Institute, which is a huge mouthful, but essentially this means that I am your partner in this journey. Like, as she said, I'm a first-generation student, a North Carolina licensed attorney, and formerly worked in law school admissions. Now that you know a little bit about me, let me tell you about AccessLex. We are a nonprofit devoted to helping aspiring lawyers achieve their dreams. We do this through a variety of ways, and one of those ways is research. Another is with increasing access to the legal profession through different diversity and equity initiatives. And the big part, which is what we're here for tonight, is education on financial capability. But before we go any further, as future lawyers, we do have to read a disclaimer. So please note that resources provided via AccessLex Institute are for informational purposes only. Although designed to assist you in developing your financial strategy, these resources are not intended as personalized investment, tax, or legal advice. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your unique needs and, where applicable, seek individualized advice from a professional advisor. So let's get into it. So when thinking about different job offers, I believe that we are happiest when we are living within our values. We'll talk about these values and, of course, money, because that's going to be important in job offers. And we're going to talk about those external factors beyond the paycheck that can have a really big impact on your life and your money. Of course, there's many different legal career pathways, from big law to private, to public interest, to JD Advantage jobs. And these other aspects of your job will weigh differently depending on the pathway you choose. So I want you to think about what your values are. You can see some examples here on the screen, a lot of different examples here, but keep in mind that your values may change over time. So for example, formerly, I was really into professional growth in my first job out of law school. And now my value is more aligned with balance. I really want to have a balanced workload, balanced work life. And so these values can transform and change over time depending on where you are. But at some point, whether it be tonight or tomorrow, or maybe a month or two from now, I want you to sit down with yourself and do a little bit of introspection. And this can feel a little weird, but think about what really drives you and what really ignites your passion in law. Thinking about those values and what those passions are can be really helpful when you are comparing those job offers. So at some point, just take the time, really think about it, and then jot down your top 3 to 5 values so you can keep those in mind as you're analyzing those job offers. Of course, money. So the median salary for the class of 2020 graduates was $75,000. Now, importantly, if you went to law school because you don't like math, you may not remember that like me, the median is just that middle number. So the range is so much wider, from $20,000 to $220,000. So where you fall on that spectrum might depend on the field of law that you decide to go into. Importantly, that $75,000 is not going to be what your take-home pay is. We also have to pay taxes. So the federal income tax rate, along with a standard tax deduction that's filing as a single person, along with Social Security and Medicare that you have to pay into as well, can pull out a lot of your take-home pay. What I want you to know about the tax structure federally is that it's progressive. So the more you earn, the more you get to contribute. But here's an example of what you might expect. So if we take the standard deduction, again, single filing, and we take out federal taxes, Social Security, and Medicare deductions. Now remember, additionally, depending on the state you're in, you may also have to contribute state income tax. And your employer might offer some elective deductions as well, such as retirement benefits. But if we're just taking the federal level, Social Security and Medicare and a single tax deduction, you're looking at about $59,000 in take-home pay annually. So now let's look at that, some of those higher salaries and what that might mean. If your salary or job offer is $190,000 with those same deductions, filing as a single, required Social Security and Medicare deductions, and your federal taxes, again, without state taxes and without elective deductions, your take home is about $141,000. So you might recognize that that gap is a little bit larger, and that is because of the progressive tax system. Speaking of elective deductions, this is something that someone told me a long time ago, and I think it is just so important, and I'm so glad I learned this early on. But if your employer offers retirement matching benefits, you should take advantage of these. You want to enroll in them as soon as you can and before that first paycheck, because you can't miss money that you don't have coming to you. And this is a really important way to save for your future. This can have really long-term implications on your future retirement. The other thing I want to mention about the money aspect of job offers is that it's going to differ depending on where you live. A $75,000 salary in Boston is not going to get you as far as a $75,000 salary in North Carolina, where I live. So take into consideration those factors as well. If you're comparing job offers from different cities, it can have a big impact on your living expenses and your cost of living in those cities. I also can't proceed any further without acknowledging pay gaps. We, of course, have a gender pay gap, but those pay gaps are even further among different races and ethnicities. For example, women live longer, which means we have to save more for retirement, which also means that because we are not making quite as much as men, we have to put even more money into retirement. And I know that can be not so fun to hear about, but the reason I want to mention this is twofold. First, I want you to know how to prepare financially, and I want you to be able to advocate for your future. So that's why I want to make sure that you're aware of those gaps. Now, speaking beyond the paycheck, you could have two job offers that are the exact same in salary, but your take-home pay is going to differ. And this could be because of different health insurance plans, different retirement plans, and all kinds of other employee offered services. That's why you really want to delve into this information. If you're someone that's maybe not an expert in the health insurance field, that's completely fine. Talk to the human resources person, have them walk you through it so that you understand the kind of benefit you're getting. This can have a really big impact on your take-home pay. Again, these are just some examples. This is also when your values are really going to come into play as well. For example, my partner works for a company that has all kinds of sports leagues and yoga during his lunch breaks. He places a lot of value on these activities because he gets to do something fun during the workday. For me, parental leave is important to me right now. So I want to make sure that I'm working for an employer that offers paid parental leave if I want to start a family soon. So think about all of those values and how they can play in to beyond your salary. Now, I know we have a lot of people in the audience, so I'm curious if you want to use the chat panel. Let me make sure that's, or the Q&A panel. And let me know if there are others that you're thinking about in here that you don't see. That's a great question. The highest paying attorney careers. So those are always going to be in big law. So those are law firms that have 100 or more attorneys. And they are going to be in all different types of law as well. So they will definitely vary. But in regards to beyond the paycheck, something else you might want to think about is bar dues and continuing legal education fees. These can be really costly if you're an attorney, maybe not making as much salary as you expected. So a lot of big law firms, medium firms will pay for your professional liability insurance. They will also pay for your bar dues and continuing legal education fees. But if you work in public interest or JD Advantage jobs, you want to make sure that you're asking about that. And that can become a big factor in when you're comparing those job offers too. And maybe you want to have some charitable contribution matching. So if your employer offers matching up to like 75% of what you put into charity, because that's really important to you and your values, that's something that's going to be beyond your paycheck as well. So this survey is a bit dated and pre-pandemic, but it's a good example of things that we consider as important as part of our employment. Think about how much you consider these factors within your future job. Now, would all of these be nice? Absolutely. But unfortunately, the reality is most employers aren't able to offer all of these benefits. So you'll want to think about what your non-negotiables are and what are some things that would be nice to have but are not required. Again, that health insurance can have a big impact on your finances as well. So if you are looking at two jobs that are pretty similar, one has a high deductible plan, which means that you pay for your medical up to a certain amount before your insurance kicks in. If you have a lot of medical appointments that year, that can mean that you're paying a lot out of pocket before you hit that deductible. And that could be a financial consideration to think of. Maybe the other employer has a normal health insurance plan, a normal PPO, which means that you are paying a normal copay. So you're paying $30 to go visit the doctor. And so it's a little bit more accessible. So, and those plans may also vary in how much they cost you within your paycheck, which is why I was mentioning that if you are looking at two job offers, taking in consideration the health insurance costs and the health insurance plans, will have a big impact on how much money you are able to have in the bank. There are also really important things on here as well, such as unlimited vacation, student loan assistance. Some jobs that are public interest or JD Advantage may offer loan repayment assistance, which can have a really big impact on your finances, but you may be making a little less money than you would in big law. So those are things to really consider when you're looking at your job offers just beyond the salary. So I want to answer this question before talking about these next steps. How can you skillfully request details of employers' health insurance plans to compare job offers? Seems like an awkward thing to ask for specific details. So absolutely, that is a great question. I think you can just ask the employer. So it's likely not going to be the person who's offering you the job, but you can talk to the human resources department or whoever is in charge of that department. They are used to answering these questions. You can ask them, hey, can you explain to me the health insurance benefits that your company offers? Do you have a high deductible or PPO? How much does it cost every month? Those types of things, human resources are always happy to answer that. I asked all of those questions before taking on my former role. I asked if there was paid parental leave. I asked what the vacation and sick time looks like. They expect these types of questions, and it's okay to ask them. Now for next steps, when you're trying to figure out, okay, so now I know what it looks like when I get multiple legal offers, but how do I get there? Use your career services departments. They are incredible and they're going to be helpful resources to you. As a caveat though, make sure you're putting in the work. So as a former person who worked in law school, you need to attend their workshops and use their resources instead of going in last minute and saying, hey, I have an interview tomorrow. Can you look over my resume? Use them early on. They are wonderful resources. Of course, update your resume, review your online presence, especially on LinkedIn. That is really heavily used in the professional world today, but also make sure your other social media channels are appropriate. And again, think about your values and how they align with your passions and where you're going to be happiest. You may think that you want to have a really high paying job and that will make you happy, but your passion kind of lies with maybe social justice issues. And so it might be hard to kind of marry those two. And after a while, you might get a little burned out and want to switch to the social justice side. So there's a lot of different things to consider, which is why, again, I always think we're happiest when we're living within our values. Of course, take on those leadership opportunities and network. You never know who you're going to meet that might know someone who can help propel your career, or might know someone who knows someone who can help you in your career as well. And last, we are always a resource to you. You can sign up for Ask Edna and Max in our Max lessons and have a free one-on-one confidential coaching session with us to talk about all things financing law school, whether that's your student loans, whether that's comparing job offers or repayment even after graduating, or if you're looking at public service loan forgiveness, which could be a big factor in determining what career you take on as well. So lots and lots of opportunities. So here is that link in order to register. And I see another question about how does LinkedIn help, especially in pursuing a legal job? So that is a really great question. So this is where networking is really going to come into play, because if you meet someone in a networking environment, you get their business card, you can go ahead and add them on LinkedIn and say, it was really nice to meet you tonight. I wanted to make this connection. And then the more you kind of have those interactions, the more that person will remember you as well. So there's a recency effect that happens with that. And just yesterday, I was at a law school fair where a student was utilizing LinkedIn and found a bunch of resources for law students. And she was able to make connections with law school admissions professionals. She found AccessLex that way. So there's just lots of great ways to really engage in LinkedIn. So this is a great question as well. How do you negotiate for more decision time so you can carefully weigh your offers? Ask. That's going to be kind of the simplest thing. And I know that feels kind of weird, but you can always reach out to one of the employers and say, hey, I have a competing offer. I would really like to take the time to analyze the benefits involved in this. Would you mind giving me until this date at 5 p.m. to respond? And be realistic with that too. You don't want to extend it like 2 weeks. That feels a little too far. But a couple days to a week, I think most employers kind of understand that as well. And they're going to tell you if that's going to be a problem. So if they say, sorry, I can't do that, I need to know by this date, then you have a realistic expectation of when you need to make that decision. So that was a lot of information that we covered pretty broadly. So if you have more questions, please drop them in the Q&A. I'm always happy to answer them. And then also don't forget to register at AccessLex. I know from experience that a lot of times once you leave a session like this, you'll think, oh my gosh, I should have asked her this or that. You can always, again, set up a one-on-one coaching call with us. And you can also find a lot of great resources through our Max programming too, about looking at job offers and looking beyond the paycheck, setting yourself up for a blueprint for your career and really being prepared for that. So this is another great question. If you're going into a JD position, how do you know, JD Advantage position, excuse me, how do you know if you're getting paid worth your credentials? That's really tough. And it can be hard because those JD Advantage positions are literally a huge range of sectors. What I would recommend is really looking into the marketplace, what the value of the marketplace is. You can look on websites like Glassdoor. And if Glassdoor gives you responses that don't include a JD, think about adding a little bit extra to be competitive with your credentials. The worst an employer can say is, no, I'm sorry, we can't meet that. And then you can understand those expectations too. But Glassdoor can be a really good resource, or any other website where you're able to kind of find competitive salary information for those positions. So once an offer is made, is it appropriate to discuss the structure for salary increases? Absolutely. I think that's part of negotiation. So especially if you try to negotiate and the employer says, I'm sorry, I can't meet that number, that's an especially appropriate place where you can say, okay, I understand. Can we talk about where there are opportunities for bonuses or salary increases in the future? What is your timeline for that, and how long does it typically take? Is it a year where people usually receive a salary increase, or what is that process like? So really savvy way to kind of advance your finances in the future. So it's rare, but I think it does happen really rarely where you see an employer rescind a job offer if you are considering another job offer. I would be really surprised, but it might happen. But I would be really surprised by that. Most of the time, if someone is trying to hire you, they're going to want to do everything they can to hire you within their limits. They're not going to rescind an offer because you're weighing your options with another job offer. And if they do rescind their offer, then it might be a sign that might not be the place you want to be at anyway. So definitely something to think about when you're thinking about your values with your jobs as well. Any other questions? These have been really, really great questions I wish I would have known to ask as a law student as well. So I appreciate that.
All right, if there's no more questions, we want to thank everyone for joining us, and a special thank you to Morgan Cutright and the AccessLex Center for Education and Financial Capability. We hope that you'll join us for more programming in the future. So be sure to visit our website. Take care, everyone.